Okay, Vach. Today's daf is Tzadik Gimel Amid Aleph, Tzadik Gimel, and we're up to Tzadik Beis Amid Beis, about 10 lines from the bottom, 11 lines from the bottom. Omle Rava le Rabba bar Mari. So we're having this digression where Rav is having this conversation with the Amoira Rabba bar Mari, not a common name, and we're bringing in all their conversations that they had together, where Rava would say something, and he asked Rabbi Bamari for a source. Often he would go ahead and one-upped him. Like we said the other day that Rabbi Bamari was bringing sources from the Kesuvim or Nevi'im, and Rabbi seemed to bring it either from the Nevi'im vis-a-vis the Kesuvim or the Chumash vis-a-vis the Nevi'im. And so we're up to another one. And it's Amalei Rava le Rabbi Bamari, Minoha Milsa the Ami Inchi that people say. Why do we know about people say? They say, Koris chavrach v'lei anoch. If you go ahead and call to your chava, your friend, and he doesn't answer you, Rashi explains you're giving him musa, you're giving him teichacha, right? You're telling him what he's doing wrong, and he doesn't listen. Remei guda rabba shadei. Go lift up a wall and throw it at him. So Rashi explains that don't spend time with him. You don't spend a lot of time with him. Amalei. So where's the source for this? So Rabbi Mamari told him a pasuk in Yecheskel. Yan tiharticha v'lei taharta mitumasech. I tried to make you tahar from your tumah, and you remained in your tumah, so I'm not going to go ahead and deal with you anymore. Amle Rava le Rabba bar Amari, no milsa yami inchi, beira de shosas mine like tishte be kala, the well that you drank from, that you had enough from, don't go ahead and throw in it. Don't go ahead and throw some schmutz into it, some dirt into it, earth. Where do you know this from? Amalei dichsiv. It says like Tesavi Adoimi, do not abominate, don't hate Adoimi, ki achichahu. Like Tesavi Mitzri, Kigeri Yisi Be'artzai. You know, you had enough from them. One's your brother, and one you lived in their land. Again, not willingly, but nonetheless, you shouldn't go ahead right and disparage them. I haven't written over here Ben Yehoyada. It's a remes to your mouth. Your mouth learns Torah. Your mouth learns Torah. What are you going to throw into your mouth? Don't throw lashon hara into your mouth. Don't throw sinas cleanim into your mouth. Don't throw things into your mouth. Your pet that did so much for you. It drank the words of water. Right? This anyone who's thirsty should go to water. Water's Torah. So euphemistically, a beautiful pshat like the Ben Yada. The well that gave you water, the mouth that gave you Torah. Don't go ahead and throw a schmutz into it. Don't go ahead and put lashon hara or my cholasi surais into it. Was something that's also a very nice Ben Yoda on that memra of Rav and Rabbi Mari. Amalei Rava le Rabbi Mari. Mino milsa the Amiinchi idolis dura dolina. If you lift the load off me, I'll lift too. You know, as if you're going to do, I'll join you. V'loi dolina. If not, I won't. In other words, Rashi says it's talking about a business deal. If a person says, you know, I'll go into the deal. If you go into the deal, then do it. But if the person, you're a little hesitant and the other person doesn't want to go in, then don't go in. Where do you know this from? Samalei, Rabbi Maris told him, Baruch told, this is a conversation where to go to battle against Sisra, and the Nevi'ah comes to Baruch and says, you know, you can go to battle. So what happens? So Baruch answers, if you'll go with me, then I'll go. So therefore, if you go in, I'll go in. If not, not. Amalei Rabba le Rabba Mamari. Menocha Milsa Dami Inchi, Kad Havina Zutre Legavre. When you were young, people considered you like old. And Hashtad Shishna, now that you're old, the Dardaki, you're considered like you were young. Where do you know that from? Samalei Mei Koruksiv Hashem Hololachneim Yomam Ba'amud Onon Lancham Aderech. When we first came out of Mitzrayim, it says Hashem went in front of us, Hashem himself, as an Amud Eish by Lahor Lahem. Right, that's what it says. And at the end, what does it say? It says that when you go into Eretz Yisrael, so you're old, you're going to Eretz Yisrael. No longer will Hashem be leading them, but who will be leading them? The Malach. So you see that you were considered choshter when you were younger. When you came out of Mitzrayim, Hashem himself led. But now you're older, you're going to Eretz Yisrael. Then the Malach will lead. Okay, this is the final zug between the two. Amle Rabba le Rabba bar Mari, no milsa de Amiinchi, Basa Mari Nichse, Sivi Mashach. But Basa Mari Nichse, if you find a Mari Nichse, a person who has a lot of nechasim, is a wealthy man, Tzivi Mashach, take away a little bit of fat for yourself. In other words, if you hang around rich people, you'll get a little bit of richness rub off on you. Amalei, where do you see that from? The Chsiv, the Gam Haloid HaHoylech Es Avraham, and also Avram, right? Who went with Avram? Also, Lloyd, who went with Avram, right? He went down to Mitzrayim and came back wealthy, and not only was he wealthy, but Lot, who accompanied him, was wealthy as well. So therefore, Lot, in his association with Avram, he went ahead and he benefited. So that's a Amar Rav Chanan, HaMoiseh din al Chaveroi. Someone goes ahead who's Moiseh din al Chaveri, he gives his din over to Shemayim. And meaning he tells, listen, Hashem, you take care of them. That person will go ahead and he'll be punished first. Shnemar. Sarah says to Avram after Hagar was going ahead and mistreating Sarah, not with the proper respect. It says, Thomas Sarah el Avram, Chamasi Alecha, my Chamas, my holding back words is with you, held back words is upon you. So in other words, and the main part of the pasuk, it says, Hashem yishbot beini ubeinecha. The end of the pasuk, Hashem should judge between me and you. So Sarah is giving over to Shemayim who should be punished. And what happens? It said that Sarah was punished first. Avram came to go ahead and be maspid Sarah and to cry for her. So you see, Sarah gave over to Shemayim the yishbot Hashem beini ubeinecha, and she was punished first. And this is only if you could possibly go to Bezdin in this world. When it's possible to go in Bezdin in this world, only then, if you don't go to the Bezdin, will you be punished. But if it's not possible, then of course, if the only one who could adjure your case is the Rebbeinu Shalom, then it's permitted to place it in front of Shemayim. Now, where was the Bezdin that Sarah possibly could have gone to? Look at the top Taisus. We always do the small Taisus, right? where was the Bezdin possibly can go to? Says Taisus, will be made Sarah haya Bezdin shall shem kayim. In the days when Avram and Sarah, the Bezdin of Shem was still around. Shem was still around. His Bezdin was still around. Amrav Yitzchak, the one who cries out, it's worse than the one who is cried out about. Now, where do you see this from? So this Rashi brings the pasuk. He doesn't bring the whole thing, but here's the pasuk. It's in this week's parsha in Mishpatim. It says. Do not go ahead and pain an almana or a yasam. So if you do, if they'll cry out to me, double lashon. If they cry out to me, I will hear his cry. V'chora api, and I'll get angry. V'rakti esnem b'chorev. So if you look, that's the top Rashi says, V'chora api v'rakti esnem shnayim b'mashma. It's mashma what, right? That both of them. That it's mashma that what, that shnayim b'mashma, that it's mashma even in both of them, that the nitzak, they're both the tzoyek and nitzak, that they're both, I don't know, they're both crying out. It doesn't seem that, no. I guess this is where's this from? Tanya Namiyachi, let's see the Brayse. Echad tzoyek v'echad nitzak b'mashma. Yeah, I guess it's going on both. You cry out, Hashem will hear, and it says, Eschem, both of you will be killed, right? They'll both be killed, right? It's written in the plural, Eschem. The one who cried and the one who caused the crying will be punished. So it's mashma both be punished. The one who caused the cry will be punished right before the one that the subject of the cry. And that was Sarah who caused the cry, right? Sarah is the one who caused the cry rather than Avram. Okay, so this is the correlation, the connection to the last thing. So Sarah is crying out, and is crying out about Avram. They're both punished, and Sarah is punished first. The curse of a regular person should not be different in your eyes. Now, this is at the end of this. We're going back to the whole incident with Sarah and Avimelech, where Sarah was abducted by Avimelech, and we saw the other day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Avimelech in a dream, and now Avimelech says the following. He says, Sarah, was Sarah married in Perik Breishis Chaf Aleph Pasuk Tesvav Tes Zion. Sarah Amar Hine Nasati Elef Kesef Lochicha. I've given Elef Kesef to your brother. Hine Hu Loch Kesus Einayim. It should be for you a covering of the eyes. In other words, it's mashma that literal that he's being pacifying Sarah, saying giving money, so people shouldn't think that he did anything wrong. Again, this is not tashlumin like we're thinking for an act of snus, But as the rabbi, I'm a king. I did nothing wrong. You should know because I gave money, and that's ksusei nayim. It should be a covering, but that's not what it says. Look at this pasuk. The klala of a hedyot. In this case, the hedyot is Avimelech. It says that he said that Shari Avimelech killed Sarah. He cursed Sarah. V'niskayim bizarra. What was the curse? Shnemar hine hulacha ksusei nayim. It's this gift of 1,000 silver pieces to Avram. It'll be for you a covering of the eyes. Amallah. Avimelech said to Sarah, since you covered up the fact that it was you were his wife, that he was your husband, you caused me again, tremendous tsar. Remember, they couldn't have children, they couldn't go to the bathroom. Nothing was great in Avimelech land. And you should have what? Sons, who are also blind. And the sky in Bizarra, and was fulfilled it says by Yitzchak, it was when Yitzchak became old, but he couldn't see anymore. He couldn't see anymore. You should be the one, you should rather be the underdog, the one that's being chased, than the one is being chased. Yeah, Jet fan. Yeah, understood. Self-understood. So Mekayim Gemara, it's a little nichem to me. 55 years of pain, Mekayim Gemara, right? I'm near Daf, rather than the eagles chasing me. I'm a jet. Anyway, so in the world of fowl, it seems that the ones that are eaten the most are the Torah b'nei Yoina. You have the eagles, for example, chasing them, ospreys, falcons, all kinds of birds of prey, and they're chasing these birds. And yet, the hichshira nakosel l'gabi mizbeach, and of all the birds that are kosher l'mizbeach, only the Torah b'nei Yoina are permitted. So again, it's a nice makar for being the underdog, the hamev and yavin. Okay, guys, that's it for Agadata. that's it. Zehu. That's it for Agadata. Okay, so now going back to the Mishnah. What did it say in the Mishnah? What did it say in the Mishnah on the Tzadik Beis? If a person says, blind my eye, katas yadi, cut off my hand, sheves ragli, break my foot, and you do it chayiv. Almanas liftar, and he says on the condition to pater, chayiv, it still be chayiv. However, kores ksusi, rip my clothing, shover sakadi, break my barrel, chayiv, you still chayiv. Almanas lifter, then pater. Okay, so this is the Mishnah, and now we're going to go ahead on and explain the Mishnah. Okay, not very fun. A few derachim in this Gemara, not so pashut, not so pashut. The final teretz is really an obscure teretz. Okay, says the Gemara. Amalei Rav Ashi bar Chama l'Rava. Ma'ishna reisha u'ma'ishna seifa. What's the difference in the reisha and what's the difference in the seifa? Why, if you tell a person to harm yourself, he's chayiv. If you tell him to rip your clothing, he's pater. What's the difference? So you think it's an obvious difference. Amalei reisha l'fi shein adam moichel al rasha evarim. A person's not moichel on rasha evarim. So why did he say it to you in the first place? Says the Rashba. Maybe he was angry. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe who knows? So in a bad mood, he said, "Go ahead, chop off my arm." I mean, a little extreme, but he really doesn't mean it. He really doesn't mean it. No person's moichel on that. If he says, on the other hand, rip my clothing, okay, he's what he's moichel on. Amalei, v'chi adam moichel al tzaroi. If you're saying that's a good svara, is the person being moichel on his tsar? Obviously not. In other words, you could be having a bad day, and you tell a person, cut off my arm, you're telling me he's not moichel on that. You tell him, take a baseball bat and hit me in the base of my back. Hit me really hard. I don't want you to damage me, chas v'shalom, to lose a limb, but I don't mind a little pain. That's not true. Person not moichel on pain. Guess what? You're still pata. The Tanya, hikani pitsuuni, hit me, wound me, almanas liftar, pata. Is pata. So your svara that on physical pain a person's not moichel, but on monetary he is. It doesn't hold water, because after all, look, you're saying if you pay me, you're still pata. Why? A person's not Michael on pain. The same way he's not. So your teretz is not a good teretz. Because for physical pain, you're pata. Ishtik. So Rava remained silent. And Omar, he said to Rabbi Yossi Bar Chama, Midi Shmielacha v'ha. Did you hear something here to answer this up? This problem, the difference between why Einachinami you're chayiv on you're chayiv for maiming someone, but you putter on his money. Amalei hachi amar Rav Sheshes mishum pigam mishpacha. Because pigam mishpacha. In other words, if you go ahead and maim me, my mishpacha is going to look bad for my mishpacha. Here you have a person who's crippled, who Nebuch is an amputee. It doesn't bode well on the family. Mashenkin, if you go ahead and just go ahead and take his clothing or his kad, so it has no effect on the family. So therefore, in the case of where it's physical pain on the maiming the person, you be chayiv because of pekam mishpacha. Right? Taisus puts out. What about tsar? Taisus says also mishalem hakol afit tsar. You'll even play even tsar. You'll pay. You'll be chayivim for the tsar. In other words, that brisa that said that you're partner on the tsar, he disagrees. According to this teretz, also the mishpacha won't want him to be in tsar. So therefore, you'll be chayiv on that as well. Mashen came when it comes to clothing, there's no pekam mishpacha. Rabbi Amar Mishum Pekam Mishpacha. Rabbi also learned Pekam Mishpacha. Rava Amar. Now Rava was the one L'chayra who told Rav Yossi Bar Achama, did you hear anything about this? So when he asked him this question on Sar, what's the difference? Firstly, what's the difference between why you chayev by maiming and pata by clothing? And he said, but you pata by tsar also. So he accepted that as a question, and he asked, do you know what teretz? Now he himself is offering the teretz. I don't know if he had more time to think, but he's figuring it out now. So Rava Amar Mishum Shein Adam. If you go with Rabbi in the first case, not a problem. But anyway, Rava Amar Mishum Shein Adam Moichel al Rasha Eivarim Shaloi. A person is not going to be Moichel on his Rasha Eivarim. He'll be Moichel on his pain, but he won't be Moichel on his Rasha Eivarim. Right? And he will be Moichel on what? He will be Moichel on clothing. So the kasha was the difference between being maimed and clothing. What's the difference? The difference is he's makbid on this and he's not Michael on this. He's not Michael on this. He's Michael on this. What about tsar? And Echinami he'll be Michael on the tsar. It seems. And Echinami it seems to be Michael on the tsar. That would be the way to answer this kasha. If you look at the fourth line down, guys, Rashi. Rabbi Amar, Fishein Adam Michael al Rasha Evarav, Ubraisa like Tikshi, and the Braisa that you asked by Tsar, right? That Tsar Michael Adam, and Tsar person will be Michael. Guys, look at me. What's the kasha? What's the kasha? We begin a Mishnah, right? The Mishnah says we're contrasting things. Maiming, even though you told the person to maim you, the person's chayiv. Clothing, the person's pata. Good. Why do we answer? He's not Michael on this. He's Michael on this. Now we ask the kasha on that. What's the kasha? The kasha was from Tsar. You see, he's Michael on Tsar. So if he's Michael on Tsar, then he should be Michael on this also. Good. So what's the teretz? Einachinami. Teretz is he's not Michael on this. He is Michael on this, and he is Michael on the Tsar, and therefore it's not a kasha. Good. And the Tsar is in the same ballpark what as money. When it's going to be a fatal, chronic in the person, a mum that will be forever there, right? A mum that will be forever there. Then what? Then he's Michael. Then he's not Michael. Mashen came where it's only for the moment, be it clothing or tsar, that he would be Michael. Okay. So l'chayru, what would the nafkamina be? By pegam mishpacha. And this, is there any nafkamina? Okay, anyway, right there. Let's say he would go ahead and damage him. Let's say knock out his tooth. That's similar to losing an eye, right? In the sense that it's fatal. It's permanent. Yeah. Is it begam mishpacha if you lose a tooth? On the other hand,
Yeah.
again, so is it begam mishpacha or a person's not Michael and Rashi Evarim?
Maybe become mishpacha, could be even if it's not permanent. In other words, a person's in SAR for 5 weeks, that's still a pagam and mishpacha because for 5 weeks you're making the family miserable.
I think begam mishpacha, it doesn't make the family miserable. I think it means it's like the way he's going to look. I think it's the way he's going to look is the difference, right?
But they have to live with the fallout.
No, I think it means that begam mishpacha, it's not something that is begoloi. It's not something that's out in the open. It's not the fallout. I think you're learning one pshat begam mishpacha. Begam mishpacha is the guy who walks around without an arm. He walks around in a wheelchair. He doesn't have a leg. That's the begam mishpacha. If he doesn't have a tooth, it's not begam mishpacha. Mashen Kain, a person himself would not be moichel on his tooth. He doesn't lose his tooth because it's like Rashi Barim. I'm not sure. Again, I'm just throwing this out as possibilities enough communion between the two terutzim, if there is any. That's what I'm throwing out. Okay, so let's say that now Rabbi Yochanan gives a different teretz. Rabbi Yochanan's teretz, guys, I'm going to give it to you in the Mishnah. He says a cryptic thing. In other words, if you look back in the Mishnah, let's look back in the Mishnah and Tzadik Beis. Now, what does almanas liftoi mean? According to this Pashut Pshat, it's the nechbal saying, it's the chayvel saying this. The chayvel, the nechbal, the one who's being hit, says, "I want you to go ahead and hit me. Almanas should be pata, yechayev." Says Rabbi Yochanan, you'd be pata. A person can be Michael and Rashi Evarim. He can be. That's not the case. Here's the case. The chayvel said, "Knock out my eye." And then the nechbal said, "Knock out my eye." The person, right? The chayvel then said, "And will I be pata?" And he says, "Yes, yeah." So that year is a no. In other words, there is a yes that's a no, and there's a no that's a yes. And therefore, when he says, "Rip my clothing," and the guy says, "I'm an be pata," and he goes, "No." So in other words, you have to shtelzik in the Mishnah. It's not the one getting hit that's saying Amanas lifter. It's the hitter who's saying it. And it's the retort of the one being hit, the nechbal, that we're going to touch up. When he says rhetorical yes, he means no. And when he says rhetorical no, he means yes. And that's the way Rabbi Yochanan is learning the difference in the Mishnah between the cases. So let's see inside. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan says, Yesh hein shu kelav. There's a yesh that's a lav. Yesh lav shu kehain. And there's a lav that's like a hain. There's a no that's like a yes. That's it. That's what he said. And everything I spoke out to you is Rashi, guys. Everything I spoke out to you is Rashi. Tanya nam yahachi, hikani pitzeni almanas liftar. If a guy says, hit me, wound me, almanas liftar, v'aymalei hain, har yesh hain shu kelav, kares ksusay almanas liftar, v'aymalei lav, har lav shu kehain. Okay, those are the different pshatim. So we have one pshat that it's a person's Michael Rashi Pekam Mishpacha. One person's Michael Rashi is not Michael Rashi Evarim. Another pshat is that it's not the Rabbi Yochanan's pshat. It's not the person being hit that state the almanas liftar. It's the person who is hitting asked for it, and he rhetorically said, "Yeah, no, and no, yeah." That's Shabbos Kadai. Okay, so the says, "You break my barrel, you rip my clothing, you chayev." Now the pasuk says a reminu. The pasuk says the following. It's the pasuk of Hashem Echinam. This week's parsha. If a man gives to his friend kesef kalim lishmar to watch, the gunim beis ish the guy pays twice. In other words, the Shem Echinam we know is only chayev b'pshia. He's only chayev for negligence. He's not chayev for Gnei Vaveda, only Shem Esacha. So now, you went ahead, it says Lishmar, to watch. So what happens if you gave it to him for the purpose of losing? If you gave it to him, lose it, then he'd be pata. Lishmar, Loila Kroya. If you gave it him to rip, he'd be pata. Right? Lishmar, that's Akasha, guys. It says over here, if he breaks his clothing, he rips his clothing or breaks his barrel, he's chayiv. We see over here, if he gives him to watch, and he says to rip it, he's pata. That's the kasha. Lishmar v'loy l'chalek l'aniyim, to watch it and not to be mechalek l'aniyim. He gives it to mechalek l'aniyim, and something happens, he's pata. Bottom line is lishmar v'loy l'kroya, you're pata. Yet now Mishnah says yechayev. Amarav huna like kasha. Hadas liyadei. He took it to his hands. In other words, he was makabel shmira. It came into his hands. He was makabel shmira. After that, then he ripped it, and then he told him, and then he told him, you know what, ripping. Once he was makabel shmira, even though he told him afterwards ripping, you're going to be chayiv. And the brisa that said that the brisa that said that your pater is where he told him beforehand. So where is makabel shmira on it initially when it came into his hands, and it came to his hands on that smach, then it's going to be pater. Where it came to his hands just to watch, and after he was makabel shmira, then he told him you're going to be chayav. So that's our Mishnah. Our Mishnah came into his hands, and after he came into his hands, he was makabel shmira. So Amalei Rabbi Lishmar Dasli Yadi Mashma. How can you say that? Lishmar's mashma, it was in his hands. You're making a chilik that that Lishmar is he told it to him when that he's pater. He told it to him before, right? Before it came to his hands. Lishmar's mashma after it came to his hands. And you told me after it came to his hands, it's too late to tell him on that condition. So therefore, your teretz doesn't hold water. Ella Amar Rabba, both is speaking where it came to his hands. He was makabel shmira, and in one case, it's going to be chayiv, in one case, it's going to be pata. I'm mishnah chayiv the brayso pata. What's the distinction? V'loy kasha hada asli yadei b'torah shmira. When he was makabel to watch it. Hada asli yadei b'torah kriya. And one, it came into his hand in order to go ahead and rip it. What does that mean? Let's see Tosfos, guys. The bottom, go to the Tosfos, the bottom, count up 4 lines, a little past the halfway point that says Ela Amar Rabba. Right? If you look at the bottom, Tosfos, Sadi Gimel Amid Aleph, about 4 lines up, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up, towards the end, Ela Amar Rabba, Masnisam bid Asli Yadei b'Torah Shmira. Our Mishnah that says Yechayev, it's when it came to his hands with Torah Shmira, Bilvad. Vishuv Nimlach, and then he changed his mind. V'nasli Rishus L'Kroya, and he gave him Rishus to rip it. Shekivish Shemit Chilas Nesinasai, Nasli Lishmar, since initially when he gave it to him, it was to watch, V'loy L'Kroya, and not to go ahead and rip. V'hanifkat Kibel Alav Masha Omer, and the person who was entrusted to watch it was Makabel on what he was told. Kibel Alav Masha Omer Achach L'Kroya. It's just a shtus. He's just told him a shtus. In other words, he gives it to him normally. Normally, he doesn't say anything. He's watching it for a few days. He comes to him and says, rip it up. Once he was makabel shmira, mitorah shmira, but he told him afterwards is shtus. Disregard it. So if you rip it up, you're going to be chayiv. That's our Mishnah. The brisa says what? You potter. Ubrisa b'da asli yadei b'torah's kriya. Shemeshas Nesina, when he gave it to him, Amalei came. The Kivin Shamalei came. He says, guys, take this Almanas to rip it up. So therefore, the Kivin Shamalei came, Koidim Shanas Shaimer, in Chayshishim Yikra. The Kolchkenim Loyasu Shaimer. In other words, so that's the distinction. When it comes to this Mitar Shmira, you're a Shaimer. When he says afterwards, rip it up, he's joshing with him. It's foolish. Mashenkein, if he gives it to him initially, and when he gives it to him at that time, he says, rip it up, it came to him. He never was a shomer in the sense of being a shomer more than to rip it up. And that's why you'd be potter in the sefer. Hahu Arnika, there was this, again, and one of the things we just mentioned was you were giving it to watch, not to Mechalik Laniyim. If you were giving money to Mechalik Laniyim, therefore, if anything happens to it, you'd be potter. Right? That's what the Brisa said. So we conclude with the Ahu Arnako, there was this wallet, some tzedakah. The also the Pumbedisa came to Pumbedisa in Afgada Rabbi Yosef, who was the Gabe tzedakah, Gabe hu Gabe. He put it by this individual, and this individual was a Shem Echinam. Poshaba, he was Poisheya, and a Shem Echinam is Chayv Poisheya, and Asa Ganving and Genuve, and they stole it. So what would you say? You'd say he's Pata, correct? Why? Because Lishmar. What happens? So Rabbi Yosef was mechayiv him. Rabbi Yosef was mechayiv him to pay. Amalei Abaya v'Tanya Lishmar v'loy l'chalik l'aniyim. Why you mechayiv him? So Amalei Ani de Pumbedisa Mikdatz kayetz lahu v'lishmahu. The aniyim of Pumbedisa, they get a stipend, they get a set amount. So it's like each one has it by him. It's like it's divided up already. In other words, let's say X amount is divided up because each one's going to get X amount. So it's considered mechulak. It's so if you look at the bottom Rashi, kayetz lahu mamin kach v'kach l'shabis, X amount for the week. L'chol echad havilei mamin sheyesh l'toivim. It's money that you have a claimer. V'karina be'lishmar. What's the problem of l'chalek l'aniyim, guys? The problem is there's no one to be toiveya from. Who's going to be toiveya him? Aniyim, which aniyim are getting it, right? You don't know which aniyim are getting it. Who's being toiveya? So, but Pumbedisa, since each one gets a stipend, each one gets a specific amount. It's considered, oh, you have money, so where's my $100? Where's my $100? Where's my $100? Where's my $50? Whatever they got. So this way it's considered mamash yesh l'toivim, and therefore there would be a din of what of shomer to apply. So the din of shomer of le'lechalek aniyim is where what there's not a set amount, and therefore there's mamash yesh l'toivim. You don't have anyone to go ahead and make the claim. Over here, since they have a genoidik, a stipend, they have money to make the claim. On that, hajjaf l'nachayvel. Okay, we learned Perek Meruba, and in Perek Meruba we saw this following chiddush. Just going to get around. We saw Rav say Keren Kain Shaganov, right? That Keren is Yipei and Kefus of Shasamad Bedin. But Keren is Kain Shaganov. There's no chiddush in that. That when you go ahead and steal from someone, whether you rob from somebody, you're clandestinely and you're considered a ganif and you're leaving yourself open to kefel, or you steal from somebody openly and you're a goslin, right? And you're a goslin, as we saw for Yigzul Sachanis Miyada Mitzri. What's a gzela? You stole you stole Binyaya, stole the chanis from the hands of the Mitzri and you killed him with it. But it's an open chatifa. Eze goizel zehalokeach mamin, the Rambam in Perek Rishon from Hilchus Gzela Vaveda, right? Says the Rambam. Eze goizel zehalokeach mamin adam bechazaka kegoin shechotaf miyadai, chaps it from his hands, metaltlin, ashenichnas of shusay shalei beratzain, abaylim v'notam misham kalim. He grabs them, he uses his evet, he uses his behema. He goes down in the field and eats his paris. All these are goslin, you're not going to be subject to geneva, to kefil. Now, anyone who steals is chayiv to return the gazela. Shnemar, return the gazela that you stole. Vim avda nishtanis, and if it gets lost or it changes, mishalim demecha. One more time. Vim avda, if the gazela gets lost, nishtanis, or it changes, then you don't return the gazela, but you what? Mishalim demecha, you pay the worth. You pay its worth. Bein shahoidim epi atzmai, whether the person's maida, because gazela is not a knas like geneva. Bein shabal I love edim shagazal. He's only required to pay the principal. There's no kefil by a gazlan. Even if you steal a beam, and build into a building, since it doesn't change, it's in the same state. The din of the Torah is as kol habinyan, you have to knock down the whole building, and return the beam. Of course, no way in the world is a person going to do this. You give the value to beam, right? So this is the concept of now, the concept of shinoi. The concept of what if you steal something, and it's in the same state, a gozel shlein is shanis that doesn't change. Alehu kimoy shahoisa, afal pishen shayishu abaylim, even though the owner gives up hope. Mimena. And even the Gazlan dies, his son still have it in his jurisdiction. You return the object itself as long as hasn't been a change. And if it changes in the hands of the Gazlan, even though the owner did not give up hope, the Gazlan's kind of b'shinoi u'mishalim dameha kishas hagzela. And he pays the Dmer Shas HaGzela. So this is the idea of Shinoi being kaina that we saw in Meruba. It's kind of an odd din because we would expect whatever you took, you should return. Now, if you're turning the value of the thing you stole, ostensibly the person can replace it by going ahead right and buying the same thing. But the din guys of remember Rabbi Chanan, there's two dinim. There's the din of Geneva, and then there's the din of what of the din of Hashava. What Shinui does, it takes off the Heshav as a gzela. That the Heshav as a gzela is it's in the object itself you can't return. The mitzvah Hashava now is accomplished what? Through giving over the money. This parak deals with that Indian of gezela and Shinui. You jump right in, and we're just jumping right in. And here we go. Says the Mishnah, Hagoizel eitzim v'asah kalim. A person steals wood, and he makes kalim. So he's mishana it. It goes from being wood to being some type of kli. Semer v'asah begodim. He steals wool and he makes a garment. There's a shinui. Mishalim kshas hagzela. He pays kshas hagzela, right? You don't have to. You pay what it was worth at the time of gzela. Keren kain shaganav. Keren, the payment of Keren kain shaganav. What it was worth at the time of the gzela. Even though, and Rashi says, Mishalim kshas hagzela demei eitzim vitsemer. You pay the value of wood, the value of wool. You don't have to return the kalim. Why? The kana b'shinoi, because you acquire the kalim with shinoi. Again, this is written in stone. This is written in stone that you kind of b'shinoi, and you would just return the value of what you stole. Says the Gemara, Gosel Mishnah, Gosel Paramu Beres. If you steal a pregnant cow, the Yolda, she gives birth in your rishus. Rachel Tuna, you steal a ewe that is laden with wool, the gizazah, and you go ahead and share it. Mishalin de me para ha'medes le'leid, but the me rachel ha'medes legazes. Now, it doesn't mean you don't, according to Rashi, Shitas Rashi, guys, is you're going to return the cow itself. In other words, there's two ways to learn. I stole a pregnant cow. It's now not a pregnant cow. There's a shinoi. So maybe I just pay for a pregnant cow. No, or this pshat, you return the cow and you pay for the difference between a baby and not a baby, right? The difference. So look at Rashi. Says Rashi, and the oidif that it's worth more now. Havlad v'agiza yoisa shalohu, the kanoa b'shinoi. So he acquires he acquires the baby, he acquires the wool, but the original cow goes back to the owner. The original cow goes back to the owner. The Rush disagrees. The Rush says it's kind of even the cow. In other words, you steal a pregnant cow, you don't even have to return the pregnant cow. She gives birth. It's a new cow now. You don't even have to return the it's a fascinating machlokas, guys. Like Rashi, you're kind of shino, you're kind of the baby. You pay the difference between a pregnant cow and a non-pregnant cow, but you're just paying the difference. But she's getting back the original cow that you stole. Like the Rush, it's a ganz new bria. Like the Rush, you don't even return the cow. Fascinating. Says the Gemara Vaita, the Mishnah Vaita. Gozal para minisarba. You stole.
So what are you paying according to the Rush? So what are you paying according to the Rush?
Right, you're paying for a whole pregnant cow.
Okay.
Whole pregnant cow, not just the difference between a pregnant cow and a non-pregnant cow. You're paying for a whole pregnant cow.
Good.
Gozal para vinisabra. You steal a para and it gets pregnant. When you steal it, it's not pregnant, and now it gets pregnant. And this abba etzloi, biyolda, and gives birth. Rachel the nita etzloi. You steal a rachel that is beer, and when it's his rishus, it grows wool. The ugazaza, mishal kshas hagzela. All you pay for what is a cow. All you pay for is a sheep. You don't pay for what one that was laden or one that was pregnant. Zak klal. Kol gazlanim mishal kshas hagzela. This is the rule. All gazlanim pay at the time of gazela. Okay, so we see from the Mishnah clearly the concept of shina is kaina. Now, going back to the first case, when you stole eitzim and you made kalim, semer and you made begadim. In our minds, we didn't spend a lot of time on this. We said, well, you stole wool and let's say you're creating a table. Let's say you're creating a table, a primitive table. Good. So you need what? You need wood. You need legs. And you need nails to go ahead and put it in. Good. Does this wood in that state, or don't you have to do something before? If you want to use a table, you're going to get splinters. Wouldn't you have to smooth the table? So in other words, there is a step that takes place before the actual making of the kalim. It's making of the wood. You'd have to take the wood, smooth down the wood, put a lathe on it, and then go ahead and make the table. Yet doesn't seem to be considered a shinoi. The shinoi is only what is making the etzim table. Good? In other words, there's an action that takes place before you went ahead and made the table. It's the forming of the wood. It's making it the wood capable of being part of a kli. Says the Mishnah, the Gemara. Amri eitzim basa kelim in shifun loy. Mashma, the act of smoothing it down. Shifun means smoothing it with sandpaper is not considered a shinoi. Because it's only, guys, we jumped a step. What do we say? Only the making of the table makes it into a kli. That same kli makes it into a shinoi. But shifun, just going ahead and smoothing it down is not. Semer v'asu begadim in libnon loy. Don't in the semer, you can't just take it off the sheep. If you ever saw what it looks like, it's disgusting. There's a whole process, guys. You have to go ahead and be malabing it. You have to go ahead and cleanse it. You have to cleanse it, and then you have to twill it, and you have to spin it. There's things that go into Masechta Shabbos, right? There's things that go into before. Yet that's not considered a shino. Uriminu alish stira. Gazal eitzim v'shifon avonim v'siston. You stole stones and you chisel them. Semer v'libnon, wool, and you what? Whitened it. Pishton v'nikahu, flax, and you cleansed it. Mishalim kishas hagazela. So what do you see? You koina even before you made it into a kli. The act of shifon, the act of milabein is going ahead in the koina. So we have a question from the Brisa to the Mishnah. Our Mishnah seems to say that the act of making a dafka, the kli is a shinoi, but the preparatory state beforehand is not. Yet we have a Brisa that says no, even the preparatory state, the shifon and the libun of the tzemer is enough of a shinoi. Geshmaka kasha. Amar Abaya. No, they're really shinoyim. Tana didon ketani shini de rabbanon. Tana went ahead and learned the shini de rabbanon. The hodra. Guys, this shinoi of the table is a shinoi that hodron. You can go ahead and remove it. In the case I gave you, you made a table. What did you do? You took the existing wood, you put nails in. What happens when you pull out the nails? It's back to being wood. So Atan is telling us the Chiddush that the Raisa, it's taken out a Shino because it's Shino, it's Hadra. The Rabbanon, it's a Shino and you wouldn't have to go ahead and return it. The Rabbanon, it's a Shino and you wouldn't have to return it. The Kol Shkein Shino Deraisa, and certainly Shino Deraisa. So Pirish, guys, if you stole Eitzim and then smooth them down, of course that would be a Shinoi. If you stole Eitzim and you smooth them down, of course that would be a Shinoi. You know what it's speaking? I stole smooth wood. I stole smooth wood. And nonetheless, putting it together in a state that I can take it apart is still a Shinoi. Where the Tana of the Brisa is only considering Shina Deraisa, where you went ahead, you took the wood and you transformed it by smoothing it down. Eitzim asa kelim, ve'eitzim mishupim. And our Mishnah is speaking about eitzim that are mishupim. Umay niu nisarim. It's speaking about boards. The shinu the hadl biyasahu. The boy mishuflahu. If you wanted to go ahead, you could take it apart. Semer v'asa begadim is speaking about what? You stole semer tavoy. You stole spun wool. The shinu hadl biyasahu. The boy sasale. If you want, just take out the stitches. The kol shekain shinu deraisa. And certainly tina deraisa. The Tana Bra, Shina Deraisa Katani, Shina Deraban like Katani. Okay, Kasha Teretz, guys. Kasha Teretz, outside. Our Mishnah goes ahead and says, if you steal, I'm just going to leave one case for who I did the other case. Okay, let's stick with you got to pick wool or wood. Let's stick with the wood, okay? We'll do the wood. First case, wood. Okay. We have a problem. Our Mishnah says, if you steal wood, and the Havamina is, I'm stealing raw wood, The only shinoi that takes place is the actual making of the kli. But the preparatory step before that, the smoothing of the wood, is not considered a shinoi. That's what the Gemara says. Comes along the Brisa, it says, if you steal wood and you smooth it down, that's a shinoi. How do you explain the difference? Says the Gemara, beautiful. Says Abaya, Atana, of course, considers the smoothing of wood a shinoi. That's a shinoi deraisa, because once you smooth it, it can't go back to what it was. It was wood, and now it's a smooth piece. You can't go ahead and put back all the sawdust that came off it. Once it's changed, shinoi means changed. It's changed. Of course, Artan is more than that. Artan is telling us a bigger chiddush. He's thinking even a shinoi derabanan would be kaina. What's the shinoi derabanan? Once you take existing smooth wood and put it into a kli, despite the fact that that kli can be restored to being smooth pieces of wood, that's also a shinoi. The table, right? You took it, you hacked it, take out the nails, you're still back to square one. That's enough of a shinoi. The Tana of the Brisa said, no, I don't consider that a shinoi. The only shinoi I consider is a shinoi deraisa, is the actual smoothing of the wood. That's the difference between the two. Very geshmak. That was a baya. Rav Ashi Omar, Tana didon nami shinoi deraisa katani. Our Tana also learned shinoi deraisa. Our Tana also learned shinoi deraisa. Good. Eitzim vasa kalim. Eitzim, and you made it to kalim. What are we speaking about? B'chani. You're speaking about a mortar. The hainu shifon. Semev asa begadim is namti the hainu shinoi deloy hadar. Good. Fellas. You know what the keli is on Mishnah? It's not a table. You know what the kli is? The kli is a mortar. They used to like crush mortar in a pestle. So you have a piece of wood, a raw piece of wood, to make it into what all you had to do was smooth it down. You have a piece of wool. The act of when you go ahead and clean the wool, it's in what we call felt. Very good. So it's not like you speaking that you had an existing smooth piece of wood or some spun wool. No, our Mishnah is speaking about raw wood and raw wool. And the act of liban on the wool and the act of shifon on the wood, it itself is a completed kli. By wood, the kli is a club, some type of mortar, and by felt, by wool, by wool. Very geshmaka teretz, very pasha teretz. Okay? So our Tana is also not speaking about a shinoi d'rabbanan on that hadar. We're speaking about a shinoi d'raisa d'loy hadar. We're speaking about taking raw wool, making it into felt, raw wood, making it into a club, into a mortar. That's Rav Ashi's teretz to answer the kasha. Fred the Gemara, the libun mihave shinoi. You're telling me that the act, you just told me, Rav Ashi, the act of libun is considered a shinoi. Not only Rashi, everyone said, the Brisa said, libun, the act of going ahead and washing it is the Brisa said the libun pishton, right? You say b'shas hagazela, right? Again, it's said above, guys. The libun semer, right? The Brisa above. Amar ba'etzim v'asel kelim urminu gezelatzim b'shifman avon b'sisun semer v'libnon. So that Brisa was saying that's a shinoi, correct? We're now asking on that Brisa. We're not going back on Rav Ashi's teretz, guys. We're not going back on Abaya. We're going back on the original Brisa that asked on our Mishnah. That Brisa that said libun itself is a shinoi, we're questioning that. That Brisa that said libun is a shinoi, we're questioning that. Fred the Gemara, or min ales yistira. Now there's a din of rashis hagez, guys. That the kohen gets the rashis hagez, 5 sheep, mana and a half a mana, the shear. If you have to give raw wool. What happens if a shinoi takes place? Then you can't be Mekayim Reish Lagez with a shinoi. Good, that's what we're discussing. We're discussing that. So now, loy hispik litna loy, you didn't have a chance to give it to the kayin achet savayu until it was what? It was dyed potter. Why? Because seva is a shinoi. Dyeing it is a shinoi. Libnoi v'loy tzivoi. If you whiten it but you don't dye it, chayet. There's your kasha. 1 second. If you told me libun is a shinoi, then l'chayra, the act of washing the wool should be a shinoi, and you can't. There's no chiyuv of h's I guess on it. Again, if there's a shinoi, there's no dinner of rishis agez. Over here, you're saying dafka tseveya, it's seva. If you die at this, it's kind of that you don't have to give it. Masha'en came libun ichayev kasha on brisa the amabaya like kasha. Hareb Shimon harabanon. Right. Reb Shimon says that what it is a shinoi. That's the brisa. The Rabbanan said libun is not a shinoi, and therefore you would be chayiv. The Tanya gazazoi tavoi v'argoi. You share it, you spin it, you weave it, right? Ein mitzdarif. It's not mitzdarif to what? To reishis agez. Libnoi. If you whiten it, Reb Shimon Omer, ein mitzdarif. It's not mitzdarif because it's a shinoi. The Chacham Omer mitzdarif, and the Chacham say mitzdarif. So the brisa above that said it's a shinoi is Reb Shimon, and this Mishnah we said below is the Chachamim. Rava Amar Hava Reb Shimon. They're both Reb Shimon. V'lei kasha. Hadin nafse nefutse. When he goes ahead, what, and he uses his hands. When he uses his hands, it's not a shinoi. It's not a shinoi, and that's the chi of Reishis Hagez. The sarke suke and above where it said libun is a shinoi is speaking where he combed it again. So if you just press it with your hands, even though you whitened it, it seems it's not a shinoi, and therefore you would be mitzvah for Reishis Hagez. The Brisa said above it is a shinoi, is speaking where you whitened it and you combed it. Reb Chia bar Rav and Amar had the chavre chavure. One is that you just washed it. The kavre kavure, you went ahead and you used soap. You used sulfur or some type of soap. So when there's no shinoi, is you just washed it. When you went ahead and used soap and some type of sulfur, then it's considered a shinoi. Now hashda fed Gemara hashda tzaval Reb Shimon lo have a shinoi, liban have a shinoi. We said that what Reb Shimon said that libui is not a shinoi and therefore it's not mitzdarif. You're telling me that no. Hashda. Reb Shimon lo have a shinoi. Tseva is not a shinoi. Libun is a shinoi. Yeah. Reb Shimon said above that by Reishis Hagez, if you wash it, it's not mitzdarif. Why? Because it's a shinoi. I'm going to show you where Shimon says dyeing, fellas, is not a shinoi. If dyeing is not a shinoi, washing is a shinoi. Again, by Reishis Hagez, Reb Shimon said a mitzdarif. Why is it not mitzdarif to Reishis Hagez? Because you're kaina with the act of washing it. I'm going to prove to you that Soiveya is not kaina. Says the Gemara. The Tanya, Gazes Rishon V'Tzavai, Rishon V'Tavai, Rishon V'Argoi, Aim Mitzdarif. In all these cases, not going to be Mitzdarif to Reishis Hagez. So you're shearing one sheep, you go ahead and you tseveya. One sheep, you know, you're not going to get to shear 5 sheep for the mana that you need. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, Aimer Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says, and Reb Shimon, Savai Mitzdarif. So what is Savai? It's Mitzdarif. So guys, kasha. What does that mean? Mitzdarif means it still retains its original status. No, there's no change. If there's no change by tzeveya, there's a change by what? By washing? It's much bigger svara to say dyeing the wool that looks totally different now is a change. So we have a kasha. No, this is a side point. And I'm a like kasha. Harabon, I'll leave it to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, I'll leave it to Reb Shimon. It's machlekes what in Reb Shimon itself. Machlekes Reb Shimon. The Rabban according to Reb Shimon and Reb Shimon ben Yehuda according to Reb Shimon. Okay. Rabbanon, it's a shinoi, and according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, in Reb Shimon, it's not a shinoi. That's one teretz. Rava Amar lo'ilam lo'i pligi. Rabbanon led Reb Shimon ben Yehuda. There's no machlekes. If there's no machlekes, why is Tzeveya not a shinoi, and why is Liban a shinoi? V'shayni tseva hoil v'yochel haviroi al yedei tzafayin. Right. So where he says Tzeveya is not a shinoi, is speaking where you could wash it out. So you dye it, you could wash it out and restore it to its original state, then it's not a shinoi. But libun seems to be what? A total shinoi. The act of washing it is a shinoi. Now, it said above, the chiktani hasam lehispik litna leyat shel Tzeveya pater, v'ukim ne'deriyakol. You said above that, above you said, guys, Tzeveya is pater from Reishis Hagez. Guys, we said above, the brisa, Tzeveya, pater, because it is a shinoi. You told me you could wash it out. So what are you going to do with that rubber? You tell me one case it's not a shinoi, you can wash it out. Above we said Tzeveya is what? Is a shinoi. You could wash it out. Why is it a shinoi? Says Gemara, that's speaking b'kola ilon, the loy avar. It's speaking about kola ilon, which is something that does not wash out. Kol Elon, fellas, you might remember from Menachos days, is the fake tchelis. That's the fake tchelis. It's not real tchelis, but that doesn't come out. So the brisa that said that what soiveya is not mitzvah to Reish, I guess, because it's a shinoi, is speaking about Kol Elon. And the brisa that says later on, the statement of Yeshua Yehud of Shimon that soiveya is mitzvah is because you can go ahead and wash it out. Good Tavach. Say a kapitel Hillim.